So in the Zohar, in Mishpatim, chapter 18, it talks about two messiahs. So in verse 482, it says, it's written regarding Yisrael, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea. That's actually a quote from Bereshis, chapter 1, verse 26. Bereshis means Genesis. Actually, Genesis is a translation of the word Bereshis in another language, meaning the ministers in the ministers in the sea, from the sphere of the serpent, the minister of Egypt that will expand with the last exile from sea to sea. And wow, I'm pausing here just to say, they say from the river to the sea, from the sea to sea. The minister of Egypt, if you think about it, Egypt is the ones who sent the last exile. Not that Egypt's the one who sent, but like originally the people left Egypt, they were sent out, right? And then Egypt would not want to take in the Palestinians. Anyway, okay, sorry, just making connections. Okay, and the quote, and over the birds of the air, refers to the evil crowd of the great giant Amalekites, a mixture of all nations in the last exile from all spheres, either Yisrael, Ishmael, or Esav. And over the cattle refers exclusively to the children of Esav, whose dominion is over all the earth. So this is really interesting. I'm pausing just to say, like, there's this thing, that something I think, either I read it here or I read it somewhere else. 2/3 of the people of the world will it's a prophecy, will die in the destruction. I think I read it here. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I just read it because I learned it, I think, a long time ago. From Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 8. I just spoke about this a few days ago. Before the arrival of Mashiach, a world war called Gog and Magog will end all wars, wiping 2/3 of the population. Okay, so I think that here we talk about Amalekites. It's actually a concubine, basically a bastard child from the line of Edom, Esav. Now, the people now with the Palestinian, they're not from the 12 tribes of Israel, but they might want to claim that they're either from the Egyptians, or they like from the Arabs, or they might want to claim that they're from the Egyptians, which are not necessarily the same Egyptians as the ones that the Jews were in exile, but also in oppression and slavery. Also, there is this idea that they are some new combination of the Amalekites, which went out of their way to hurt the Jews for no reason, at least more than once, at least twice. And there's and they also like dressed up. They were like very sneaky, trying to play different people. So it says that it will be like an evil crowd of giant Amalekites. And thinking now of like influencers, they're kind of like, could be like thought of as giant, and they're sort of like trying to make people hate the Jews for no reason. I experienced twice in this past week, just people who I felt I've helped tremendously, I've been kind to them, not judge them, and they're like thinking perverted, persecuted, like they think they're like a victim and I'm doing wrong, and I'm like, and it's just because I'm Jewish, and they're talking bad about Israel, and I'm like, but Israel is an Israel defense, organization. They're not going out to hurt anyone. They're defending their land. This is indigenous people. There's indigenous people in a land that's named after them. Now you have people, they were guests. They weren't wanted in many other Arab countries. They're here in Israel, and they want more and more and more. They stand on the roof cheering when bad things happen to Israel, and then they wonder, after building all these tunnels and having terrorists, and think about it, Hamas in Hebrew means violence and robbery. Look in the chapter of Noah. You'll see, it says it in the Torah. It literally means in English, violence or robbery. That's what they're doing. They want to kill and they want to steal. They want to take what doesn't belong to them. And what does that sound? Like a parasite, like a cancer. And they want to kill their host. So this is like, they get schools, they get food, water, electricity for years. Meanwhile, they went to the Arab countries. They were killed because they're so difficult to work with. And in this case, they're living for free in this land and don't want to pay taxes, don't want to get jobs. They're living in Israel, which has rain and wells, and they're on the beachfront property. They don't want to make beautiful oasis with gardens and vegetable paradise, orchards and fruits, and it's just ridiculous. Make a resort, make a beachfront property. People will come up with anything to say something against Israel or Jewish people. And meanwhile, there's countries that have no part in Israel. Like there's Japanese people who, a lot of them actually have ideas that they're divine and they're from a divine Orient lineage. And actually they stand with Israel. They say, if only more Asian countries, the people would live in the place where they originally were from, their lands. Why is everyone trying to take away a land? So here you see, from sea to sea, they'll be free of, right? And it's a serpent, and it's giant Amalekites, evil crowd, a mixture of nations. It's like, why Ishmael did not get told he would have this land. And Ishmael, the Arabs, it says they're going to mess up their borders, and that's what their father said to them. If they claim their father gave them this land, that their father said straight out, you're going to have problems with your borders. You're not going to be able to tell where you end and someone else begins. And here, it's a disability. It's a disability to build tunnels in your land when you could have built beautiful structures and make long-lasting things for your children. Instead, you destroy the land underground. And if anyone's interested, go read the story of Solomon with the two ladies fighting over a baby. And the one, King Solomon in his wisdom said, let's cut the baby in half. And the lady who's the real mom said, no, you could just give it to her. And that's how he figured it out. Now, if Israel tried to offer land to these people, and they're saying, no, if you would be okay with cutting your baby in half, it's not your baby. If you're okay with cutting your land apart and destroying it with bombs and the blood of your host, and tunnels with terrorists and murder weapons, and I mean, they went into the houses while the Jewish people were celebrating a holiday, thanking God for the Torah, for the will of God in order to do good in the world. And Jewish people pray for all the nations. Actually, on this holiday is when in the temple they brought up for the 70 nations. So here I gave an example of Japan. They don't have a part in Israel, but they know that a blessing comes through the Jewish people, because every one of the 70 nations has one angel. 70 angels for 70 nations. And then Israel's angel is no angel, it's God. So this is what it's called the chosen people, because Israel didn't need the intermediary. Now, nations before, each one, there's 70 fundamental nations, 70 fundamental lands. Now we divide up a map. I'm looking at one right now. We divide it all up in many different countries and everything. There was originally, and I think it's interesting about, that there's 70 original languages, and it could all be after the land of Babel, after the Tower of Babel, because we know that science has confirmed about the flood, that there was under the Earth's crust in the mantle there was the deep sea water that it's referred to, hot and frothy. Then also it says that all the lands were together, so it could be they got separated when God, dispersed everyone with different languages. They really believed, Ephraim Palvanov, I'll talk about this in the future, actually speaks about how they really believed they were now Chinese and Egyptian and whatever. So we could say that this all happened, the different cultures came apart. But to go into people's houses while the men are praying to God and dancing around the Torah, saying, thank you for giving us the chance to follow your Torah, and to bring, and think about it, in the time of the temple, they brought up, sacrifices and made binding connections for prosperity and divine bounty for all the nations of the world. And it says that the sages say, if the non-Jews would know how they benefit from the Jewish presence and purity is brought to the world, and the sacrifice and the godliness, they would be protecting the Jews, not trying to hurt them. So anyway, these men in their homes, in their synagogues, in their temples, in the places of worship, and their wives and kids are at home. Why should babies' heads be cut off and Jewish women raped? Why is that necessary? It has nothing to do with any of them. And while their men are at synagogue, and not only that, but a lot of the men who have to be in the army sacrifice their lives. They just, without even underwear and socks. People were raising money, I remember, for months, just to get them basics. An undershirt, a new pair of shoes. They just went with whatever they had to defend the land. It's called Israeli Defense Force. Okay, verse 486 of Zohar Mishpatim chapter 18. And Yisrael are like a dove pursued by the eagle, representing the birds of the nations of the world. At that time will be aroused the eagle of holiness. He shall spread his wings upon the mixed multitudes, Esav, Ishmael, Amalekites, and the evil multitudes of Yisrael, and devour them, and not one will remain to fulfill that which is written about Yisrael in Devarim, Deuteronomy 32:12. So Hashem alone did lead them, and there was no strange El with him. Because that's what it means here, not to have another God. And I want to share about a few more things, but I think I'll share that next time, but I'll share this. I would like to talk about how we just learned that there could be evil people in Israel as well. I wrote about some crimes against humanity. I'll give you examples. Praising in public or saying personal details as if to honor, but it embarrasses them. Not giving space that was requested, whether it's peace, silence, or stillness. And because of wanting to offer, wanting to be someone who can get credit for being generous, a giver, even if the other isn't open to receive. And made it clear that what is desired is to be unbothered. More crimes against humanity. Speaking and acting in a divided way, or writing things based on feelings but behavior completely contradicts, and the other doesn't know who they're interacting with, leaving discomfort about the lack of a resolute, salient self. I'm saying, let's say towards me, that is actually hiding behind a character. So what are some practices in order to heal from these crimes against humanity? One, every time you think of something negative, find 5 positives. 2, focusing on something for 17 seconds gives the thought dominance. Let's practice 17 seconds. I'm going to focus on I am lovable. Find 5 positives for every negative. I got afraid I got bed bugs, and it is like I was able to get out a lot. I was able to start being all worried and careful about cleanliness. I was able to pray extra to God. I was able to should be able to find 2 more. I was able to not want to spend extra time in bed, like, wanting to be moving around, taking care of things. And also I feel like nobody was able to be thinking they're jealous of me. Anybody who I would bring it up to would be like, oh, that's really hard, right? Could cause an infestation. Okay, and third practice is consider what the most well version I can access of myself would do. So that's something where I think something that we have to use something that's an issue. So something that's kind of like an issue. How could we, right? Like to find a way say, what would the most well version of me do? Like there's someone I know who's homeless now, and I just feel that they've been needing a place to stay, but I feel like I can't really offer my place, especially when I got this fear that I might have bed bugs. So the best way I could help them find a place to stay is to make time to take them to a shelter with some supporting documents that might help them get a private room. I think that's what the most well version of me would do. At the same time, it feels like one very well version of me would just give them a big hug and tell them, and just spend time with them. And wellness is we, not I, right? Illness. All right, so I wish you a very good Shabbos in wellness. No pests. We should have, if, any fear I had about bed bugs should be just totally unnecessary. Nobody should have any unwanted guests making them feel they can't lay on their couch or move freely about in their life or be comfortable at home. Everyone should feel comfortable at home or not feel comfortable laying in their bed or getting as much sleep as they need. Should feel loved, should feel like God's baby, should be have a delicious, food experience, to see beauty. To feel like a contributor, to have faith that there's going to be enough money, there's going to be enough resources, there's going to be enough of everything necessary, and God's going to work out all the details. There's going to be true justice, and not to worry about people who are violators or thieves, robbers, that anyone who's like trying to go somewhere they're not supposed to go, or anyone who's making threats, anybody who's on the wrong side will get theirs, and we just choose the right side, that we continue to choose the right side, that we actually are able to connect with the life and life, with the soul and the body as life and life, and that we have a holy, healthy self-concept, self-image, self-identity, self-form, and self-presentation. All the best. Have a good Shabbos. Bye.